Can you guys hear me? Are we good? That's right. Just making sure that everybody can hear me. Just testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Making sure that everybody can hear me and everybody making sure that everybody can hear me. Just testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Making sure that everybody can hear me and everybody can see that everybody can hear me. Just testing. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. We had some technical issues because, again, it's been a while since I last did some streaming. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was there, hanging with us. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging in there and for also joining the stream. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was connected. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Roman. I am a Flutter GDE lead organizer at GDG Lawrence, and also I'm a mentor for the Northeast. I'm really passionate about Flutter, and that's why I wanted to start with these live streams again related to Flutter. Please leave in the message, leave in the comments anything that you want to ask me about the application and whatnot. So what I'm gonna be doing is a series of videos in which I developed an application from scratch, from the beginning. I'm gonna develop this casual game in Flutter using and I'm gonna deploy it for iOS and Android. So I'm gonna be developing this casual game completely in Flutter, and eventually I'll publish it to iOS and Android for both platforms in a sequence of events. So I'm gonna start today, Wednesday, and every week I'm going to be posting the link for the upcoming session. So make sure that you stay in there, that you stay tuned, and then you can watch me as I make progress in building this application. So this is what I'm going to be building. I'm going to show you a little preview. Can you hear me there? Perfect. Okay, so it's because of the I didn't add that other piece in there. But yes, this is the application. I'm just gonna show you real quick, and I hope you guys can hear me now. So this application, I developed it like on a plane ride, like I was saying, like on a plane ride to California. This application came out pretty good. This application, I developed it in Objective-C, and now I'm gonna port it over to both Android and iOS using Flutter. Again, for those of you who just stumbled upon this stream and you want to know what this is about, so this is I'm a Roman, I'm a Flutter GDE, and I'm gonna be developing this application completely in Flutter. So Flutter, you ask what Flutter is if you just came into this live stream. Flutter is an open source UI toolkit supported by Google that allows you to develop multi-platform applications using one single code base using the Dart programming language. So I'm gonna be showing you now in the screen right now, and I hope I'm still with the mic. This is the application that I'm gonna be developing. This is what I'm calling the skipping frog. So it's a pretty cool, simple application that I'm gonna be building for you guys from scratch, completely. No sample code that I'm gonna be bringing over or anything. No, I'm gonna be developing completely from scratch. So again, for those of you watching, again, just stay tuned. But I'm gonna be just jamming. Like, the reason why I want to create these series of events is just so that you can watch me in my process of how I develop applications, how Flutter has made me really productive when it comes to building like lots of applications, for mobile, web, desktop, embedded, and all of that using Flutter. So I'm gonna be building this application completely from scratch, like starting from the beginning project. So let's start, because I know that we got a lot to cover. So, and again, remember, I'm gonna try to see how much I can cover in 1 hour, a little bit over an hour, and then every week I'm going to be publishing the next event. So next week, I know, just again, a quick shout out to the folks in GDG San Jose. I'm gonna have an event with them next Wednesday. That's why the streaming for the completion of this application, I'm gonna be moving it to next Tuesday. So just stay tuned, because I'm gonna be doing that in there. Camilo, Diane, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Again, this is us just shooting the shit, just throwing code in there, just you looking at me as I develop the application. So this is what I'm gonna be building, which is pretty cool. The actual original screens are this one. So this is a simple application. Hey Vijay, how you doing? I hope you got the link that I dropped in the comments earlier. I can drop it again. It's just a workshop that I created about state management. So again, I try to keep things simple. I try to develop this application. So this is what this application is all about. So it's supposed to be like a character, like a little frog that wants to jump across the pond. And then using swiping gestures, you actually make the character jump. Just because this is a game doesn't mean I'm not going to be implementing core concepts in yeah, so I'm going to drop it again. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I have it right here for you. And you can just have that link right there for those of you who want to know more about like state management in a very simple way. So that is that. And again, so back to the topic. So the skipping frog is just a simple application using swiping gestures. I'm going to like move the character and all of that. The concepts that I'm going to be demonstrating here apply to all applications. I'm going to be using connectivity to a network. I'm going to be doing like life cycle events. I'm going to manage that. I'm going to create a bunch of screens, navigation, using the core widgets to build other widgets, achieving what they called widget composition. So again, state management, of course, and a lot of other really cool aspects. So I'm going to be adding like a help screen to this application. I am also going to be creating like an options, because so you're gonna have like either like an easy level and a hard level, and you're going to be able to tap into the leaderboards. We're going to be using Firebase for that, and then we're going to be able to pull information and store information for this game in Firebase. You have like a way for you to know when you win the game. When you win the game, we have like a couple of levels, and then you get to the end where it's like a pond, and then the frog reaches that pond and then he wins. If you lose, like I have like all the rules on all of that. I will explain that later, but let's start just by creating the basic concepts of that. So what about the assets which you use for this app? Vijay, you actually mentioned something really key. So the assets for this, I created those myself. I claim to be, cartoonist, so I drew all these assets myself. So most of the assets I created them myself, like the drawings I did them all myself, and then I used some other like assets from other places, but then I combined them all and then I created the UI for me. So this is again, like I showed you, these are the screens that we're going to be building. Thank you, by the way. Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that maybe if you don't have a designer next to you, your apps may not look like really cool, but you try to go to what places like Dribble or like there's a couple of places, Pinterest, that you can actually even like get cool designs from, right? And then you can copy those designs and you build your application. So let's start. That's a lot of talking. So as you see, these are all the these are all the screens that we're going to be building. And today, let's see if we can cover just building all the screens. Here, these are the assets that I'm going to be exporting. By the way, this is Adobe XD. I suggest you guys using like Adobe XD or any other type of software for building like your user interfaces or your mockups. For me, Adobe XD works pretty good because I can create all the assets in here, and then I can just export them as PNGs or SVGs, and then I can consume them inside of my application. So why don't we do that? So if you see, I have like all the images, all the things that I'm gonna be using as assets in my application. You could use, for example, packages like Flame or some other like Rive or any other let's say libraries and packages that you can use for building like sprites for like casual games. Please go ahead and do those. I'm gonna be using core widgets. I'm gonna try to build this application with the least amount of packages. That way it is much lighter. So that's why I'm gonna be using like literally just images and using just the image .asset widget, and then just like replace it on the fly whenever I want like some effects or anything like that. So I'm going to show you how I grab, for example, like all my assets and I just export them. From here in Adobe XD, all I have to do is just like highlight all my assets like this. Check how simple it is. So I grab all my assets. I just need to make sure that all my assets are properly cleaned and properly named, because I name like all my buttons and all the things and all the assets that I'm going to be using. So I name them correctly so that now when I do this and I just highlight all my assets, all I need to do, I just highlight it all the way over here, and I just right click and I say export selected. Export selected is going to allow me to export all of these assets as individual images, and then I'm just going to drop them in a folder. And then I'm going to use, yes, Vijay, I'm going to use explicit animations. I'm going to use just simple implicit animations as well. I'm going to be using a mixture. I'm going to be using even set state, like you just regular stateful widgets. So you're going to see. But yeah, I'm going to use a mixture of those animations because you don't have to just go by one single, let's say one single approach. You can combine multiple approaches. So I'm just going to save that into my downloads, for example. I'm going to go to the downloads. I'll create like a folder called skipping frog assets, for example. For now, let's just create something like that. I just wanted to show you how these assets are going to be exported, and then I'm going to import them into my application. So now if I go to the downloads and I go to the that folder that I just created, let me show you. Skipping frog assets, those are all my assets right there. You see, I just got a bunch of PNGs, very low PNGs. Try not to make them like really big. That way you can import a bunch of those assets in there. So you see all my assets are in there, and then I'm just ready to import them into my application. So let's start completely from scratch. Check this out. So I'm going to just close Visual Studio. I'm going to go to a terminal, for example, and I'm going to do this. Check this out. So I'm just going to tell you, like right here, we're going to start from scratch. I'm going to go to my documents. I have my Flutter folder, and I'm going to just immediately say, Flutter create, and I'm going to create a project called Skipping Frog Mobile, for example. Let's just keep it like that, because I want to focus only on mobile. I could later do like the web out of this one, but at least I'm just going to focus for the deployment of this application for both platforms. I'm going to do iOS and Android, so let's just call it mobile. So you see, it just already created the project, and I am going to just say, Skipping Frog Mobile, and there's the project right there, and I'm just going to open it in Visual Studio Code. So for those of you who might be wondering, okay, why you're using Visual Studio Code, it's one of the best IDEs. It has a lot of cool integrations with Flutter, and then you can build like you become really productive because you have snippets, you have shortcuts, you have a lot of cool things that you can leverage as a Flutter developer. So I'm going to even be using my physical device so that we can actually deploy the application much faster. And you can see that I'm going to be deploying it right to a device. So let me just do this. And you see already my phone is connected right here. As soon as I connected my phone, as soon as it just woke up. So let's, and then you see that as soon as I did Flutter create, I created the project. Of course, you need to make sure to have the Flutter framework installed. And I'm going to just launch this application in my phone. So I'm going to say Flutter run, and you will see how this application will just load right away into the phone. While that is loading, because it's just going to load a simple hello world, I'm going to start taking a look at, again, bringing my assets. So some of you immediately are going to ask me like, Vijay, I'm going to show you like the plugins which are used in Visual Studio. Right here, they're like right based off of the when you go and find like extensions and you try to install those plugins, like they already come as part of when you go to the extensions here in Visual Studio, you can just find them right away. As soon as this loads, you will see it, but it takes a little bit to load for me. But when you go like, when you say like Flutter and Dart, you will see like a bunch of extensions that you can install, so you can just go right there and they immediately come up for you. You see like how you see the Flutter support right here, this one. So this is pretty cool. So see, it's already installed. So try to add this one. Also add the default for Dart. There's one for like awesome Flutter snippets, so you could do the Flutter the Dart for the Dart support. So you can install those, which are pretty cool. So I'm going to make sure that I'm gonna try my phone again, because right here is not finding it. So let me try it again. There we go. So if I kill it again, and then I do Flutter devices, I should be able to see my phone. Otherwise, I can just plug it in there. Again, this is one of the commands that you can use in Flutter to check your devices. So you can check all the devices that you have available for you, and you see that my phone is there, my phone. So I can immediately invoke my phone or just launch it in my phone by saying Flutter run -d, Flutter run -d, and then you add the ID of the device, whether it's an Android or your Mac OS or Chrome. You could say Flutter run -d, and then if you pass the ID of the device list that you got in there, you just grab the ID, and then it just deploys it right there. So what I'm doing is I'm deploying it right to my physical device, and then you see that I'm projecting in there, and then you will see it. So after this loads, you will see at least the hello world, because that's what we're gonna start with. I just wanted to make sure that the it just loads right there on the phone. So there we go. So it's gonna try to launch it. So I just wanted to explain to some of you again a little bit on the architecture and a little bit of the structure that I'm gonna be using. So there's no secret. There's no like yeah, somebody does it wrong, somebody does it best or whatever. If you do it as long as your code is organized and you keep a clean structure of your files and you know how to find them, it's you do you. That's what I keep trying to promote. The fact that you don't over-architect your application and then you make it really complex just because you're following somebody else's tutorial and because he did it right. But then even if it's a simple application, I still need to do it in this way because he's doing it right. No, your application may have like some specific needs, and then you wanna implement those the needs of your application. Don't it's not like a cookie cutter approach. It's not like everything applies to every single application. So for this application, because it's going to be simple, I'm going to keep a very simple structure. So I'm going to be using a folder structure for that. So it's almost loading. So you're going to see it pop up. But while that happens, I just want to show you, for example, at least the main.dart, right? So the main.dart is the main file where we're going to be, like doing our stuff in there. I hope you guys can still see it. So this is going to load in a minute. There it is. So that's the main.dart. That's where we're going to be building our application. And as soon as it builds, at least we're going to be able to debug it there. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that at least it loads once. I hope you guys can still see a bit of data. So it's a little bit of to that, just a little bit of there we go. Yes, Vijay says, is there a basic template which you would suggest? For example, for your basic structure, you could start with let's say with a folder structure. Then you can start let's say building up on that, making sure that you keep very clean and let's say simple approach, simple architecture. You can continue growing your application, and you can make it so that it it doesn't make it very convoluted or very complex. So that is what I always suggest people to do. Start small, but don't let that keep you from building an application just because you don't feel like how you start. You can start with a folder structure, and then you can work your way up from there. So I think we're about to start loading this. I just wanted at least to see the basic application loading in there. So it's there you go. It's compiling and signing, and then you can start. You can continue seeing it. So I'm going to. There we go. So it says compiling, linking, and signing. So it's about to load it in my phone. And then once you see it, then we're gonna continue just building up on that. Perfect. So at least I just wanted to see that piece because it's just taking a little bit, because it's like the first time when you build when you build it for the first time, when you build your iOS in this particular case. So it takes a little bit. It's trying to generate the first set of first set of bits and building the application and whatnot. Then after that, it becomes a little bit smoother. So just hang in there. Got it. So while then that's happening, I can show you then the structure that I follow. So the structure that I follow is usually, again, like I say, like a folder structure. So within the lib folder, which is the main folder, I usually create several folders under it. So one of the folders that I create is, I call it pages. Pages, I use this structure for like page level type of widgets. You see that the application has multiple pages. So this is where I keep, for example, all the screens. For example, like each remember, everything in Flutter is a widget. So including the screens, I'm going to consider them as widgets, but I'm going to add them to the pages folder. So though, for example, like, landing page, splash page, menu page, game page, help page, options page, leaderboards page, all those are widgets, but they are page level widgets. So that is how I'm going to consider it. So that's why I have a pages folder. The next folder that I do is like, I create one for like models. So I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to call it models. Models is like for when I do, for example, like I create like those Dart models that are going to represent the entities and assets and the entities that are going to play out a role in the application. For example, the game, the player, the frog, the leaves, all of those entities and those assets are going to be created as models so that I can manipulate them in the application as like strongly typed objects. So that's why I create my models, to create those, DTOs. Also, when I receive information from the leaderboard, I'm also going to be creating it as a, I'm going to create a model of those so that I can map the data coming from the network, and then I can just show it in the application. So it's still installing and launching is taking a little bit, but at least I'm making my folder structure. So I have pages, I have models, I also create one folder for my services that I call it services, but it's pretty much like using kind of like the MVVM pattern. So you have like view models, you have models, and then you have view models. So you have views, models, and view models. The view models is kind of like the glue between the view and the model, right? And then these services are actually kind of like the ones that are going to carry like the business logic. You could call it a block. You could call it business logic of components, because it's pretty much what that's going to be. It's going to hold the business logic for my components. So that's why I call it like services. I also create a folder called helpers, and helpers is nothing more than just classes and other helpers like utility methods, factory methods that I create to generate stuff in the application. Thank you guys for continue joining. Just hang in there, because I'm just building applications pretty much. That's what we're doing now. So I appreciate everybody joining. So helpers is then a folder where I create like things like utils classes. I create enumerations, like those type of utilities pretty much. So this is still loading in there. Helpers. Okay, I see. I click OK, and then that's it. You see, so at least you get the basic application in here. And remember, like if you just change stuff and you save and you do reload, you should be able to see the changes reflected in the application. There you go. So at least there you go. Perfect. So now we have everything running. So we're gonna continue building up on this application. So yeah, Nick, thank you so much for joining. So let's continue. So I create also another folder for like my widgets. So even though remember that everything in Flutter is a widget, I consider widget those reusable components that are actually children of the page widgets. For example, widgets, you can consider the character is going to be a widget. The header is going to be a widget. Buttons are going to be widgets. Stuff like that. Page level widgets, I consider them pages, but they're still widgets. So that's why I consider them like page level widgets. And you see, you can create other folders and whatnot, but this is like the basic structure for you to start. This is not again set in stone. This is something that I use for small to medium applications. I've even attempted this in large applications. It's just that everything is in there, right? But you can follow like the feature, like the type of feature approach to kind of distribute your application. And then last but not least, I need one root level folder that I call assets. And then this is where I'm going to be dropping the assets for my application. I'm going to show you in a minute. Now the assets, I divided further into other folders. So I create one folder for the images. I create one folder for the fonts. I create one folder for audio. For example, this application is going to have like audio. So you see inside your assets, you add like all those things in there. So you're going to load audio, you add it to the assets, you add fonts, you add images and all of that. Perfect. Let's continue. So now that I have, let's say the application, the basic application running, and I am going to start just building it from scratch. Check this out. I'm not gonna, I kid you not, I'm gonna start from scratch. Check this out. So out of this application, I'm just gonna start right from scratch, importing the material and say void main. You see, very like right from scratch. Run app, I'm gonna call the run app and all of that. You see? So if you see, I'm gonna start right from scratch, starting my run app, and what I do is I usually either create like a wrapper widget that represents the whole application. So here I can say like skipping frog app, and then skipping frog app is gonna be then the application itself. So I can create one class in here. I'm gonna create it as a stateless widget, for example. I'm gonna say stateless widget, and I'm gonna call it skipping frog app, right? I can do it like this. I can also just right here inside the build method then return the main widget, which is going to be the material app widget. The material app widget then is going to contain again the root widget. Like even though skipping frog app is the first widget, I want to have a widget that then encompasses the whole material app, because I'm going to be using the material for this application. So here you do, for example, you can say material app, right? And of course you always have to do something like debug show check mode banner equals false, because I don't want the little sash. And then for example you can instead, for example, like here I'm going to create it as a, they suggest using it as a constant. And then of course the same thing with here. So you see I have the material app, I have the application. Now I want to start loading, let's say the after I load the material application, and then I have like the debug show check mode banner false. I want to load like the first widget, but instead of loading the first widget just like that, like people say like home, right? Because it's gonna be like the first widget. I'm not gonna be performing navigation on my application via just instantiating pages. I'm gonna be using routes. So the way that I'm gonna say is initial route, and this is gonna be then the slash, meaning I'm gonna do like the route was gonna be the initial page that I'm gonna load. So when I say routes in here, I'm going to then say what my routes will be. So for this one, then I am going to say, I'm gonna say context, and then I'm going to load the first application. The first page will be actually the skipping frog app splash, for example. I'm going to start with the first route, which is going to be the splash screen for this application. So why don't we do that? And you see, I'm going to start building this. See, I don't need the constant anymore because I'm going to do that. But check this out. I'm going to create the first page of this application, which is going to be the splash screen. So remember, you go to the pages and you start creating like your files. So I'm going to be calling this, skipping frog splash, for example. I can call it like that, and I say Dart. So I'm going to be creating this as a stateless widget. So I'm going to say stateless widget, and I called it skipping frog app splash. Let's start creating this guy. I'm going to import the material, and because this is going to be like a page level type of application, I'm going to use a scaffold widget for that. So I'm going to say scaffold, and I'm going to add as the body, I'm going to add, let's just start something simple, a text, and then I'm going to say hello, something simple. It's just to see. Let's make sure that at least we load this one. So back to my main app, I load my, I import my newly created page, and then you go like that. Perfect. Let's see. So if I reload this, I should be able to see hello up in there. So when the application loads for the first time, it's just going to show hello. And you see that it shows up there in the corner, hello. There we go. I have my splash page created. I'm gonna make it in a constant because I already have that. But you see, I already created the first page, which is the skipping frog app splash screen. So that's the splash screen, and you got it. Now that's how I'm gonna be doing the application. So I'm gonna be creating all these components, all these widgets, and I'm gonna create page level widgets. I'm gonna be creating other types of widgets, like smaller widgets, but we're gonna start like that from scratch. Now let me bring like some of those other assets that I'm going to be bringing. Remember, we need to start bringing like the colors of the application, the images, and all of that. So let me bring my images, all the images that I'm going to be using in this application, which I already have it in my downloads. I already generated those assets in here. So let me grab all my images. Remember, I just created those images, so I'm going to just highlight them all. I am going to drag them into my images folder. So I'm going to drag them into the images folder. I have 53 images. I'm going to drop them all into the images folder. That should take a little bit, and there it is. Perfect. So now I have all my images in there. Now I need to make sure that in my pubspec.yaml, I make sure that I set up the assets for my images. So this is in the pubspec.yaml. This is the configuration that you set to tell it that you're going to be importing assets. So I'm going to uncomment that. I am going to say that the is assets imgs. I called it imgs. And when I say slash, I'm going to say all my images are going to be in there at the same level. You can split your images in maybe more compartmentalized way, but I'm just going to drop it in there. You can can just add them all. You can add little folders, more subfolders if you want. Then you're going to have to specify those subfolders in there, but I'm just going to create it like that. So there you go. So assets, images, all my assets will be there. Perfect. When you reload, it's usually best practice that when you add assets like this, right, and you already add the assets, you can, for example, you can start, you can kill the application. Like that is the most common way to do it. So you can kill it and then you start it again, because the virtual machine, the Dart virtual machine that loads your application really needs to know, it needs to know that new images and new assets have been imported. So I just killed the application. I'm going to reload it again, and then you're going to see now the assets being imported. So I need a few colors for this application. So let's start bringing like some colors that I'm going to use. So for example, the background here for this screen, I'm going to be loading this image, but then I need this background color for it. So if I click on that, I see that the fill, I think it's just black. There you go. It's just plain black. So I can use black for now, but I'm going to show you later how I create like either theming for the application, or I just create like a centralized repository or a centralized place where I add all the colors for my application. So let me go back to, for example, remember we're building the splash screen. So in the scaffold, I'm going to say background color, right? I'm going to say background color, and I need to make sure that this is up. And I say background color, I'm just going to say colors are black for now, because this is just a standard color this is just a standard color in Flutter. I don't need to keep it as a constant or anything like that. I could change it, because if I'm going to change it later on or whatever, but I could keep it like that just to keep it simple for you guys. And then instead of the body, remember, if I go by the design, I need to refer to this image right here, which I called it, actually, let me go to my assets down here, and I'm calling it Skipping Frog logo off. So I'm calling it that. So I'm going to, after this loads, of course, I know that I'm going to be able to have my assets in here. So all I have to do is replace this, this text. So I'm going to be replacing this text widget by a image.assets. So I'm going to say image.asset, and I'm going to be referring to those assets that I'm going to be loading. So it's about to load in a little bit, but I'm going to refer to the assets. I'm going to refer to the imgs, which are the images. And then in there, I need to find the name of that, the image, so that image, so which is the logo. So I'm calling it Skipping Frog logo off. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to say, assets, assets imgs, and I'm gonna say skipping frog underscore logo underscore off.png. So something like that. We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna resize it if we need to, but we're gonna start with something like this. So it's about to build. I had to load the images. I had to rebuild the application. Then you can just, perfect, yeah. So I'm waiting for this to finish building, and then I can do that. Okay, perfect. So basically, once it loads, when you see it load now, again, you're going to be able to see that. So let's continue reviewing a couple of the things that we're going to be doing. So the first two things that I'm going to be doing are the skipping frog. I'm going to be adding the logo in there. I'm going to add this. I'm going to create the splash screen. Then I'm going to add the second screen, which is kind of like that landing page, right? And then I'm going to create, I can even start creating some of the other pages little by little. So I'm just going to create it like that, and then little by little add, like build up to this, to the final design, right? So it's about to load. Let's take a look. Perfect. Okay, so it's taking a little bit, but that's okay. Yes, so let's continue. Like I was saying, this is what we're building. We're building the splash screen. So we're going to first target this, and then after that, we're going to go right into the next one, because we're going to be creating those. But at least I wanted to make sure that the images were there. Now that the images are there, I don't have to worry about anything. I can just start banging this application left and right, using all the assets that I already have loaded. So there you go. So after, see, I'm going to be creating my pages in there, like I mentioned. The main.dart is where I'm going to be creating all the routes. So let's take a look. So we should be able to see the splash screen, the skipping frog app splash. It's just going to show like a background, a black background with the image in the middle, hopefully. Let's start that. Let's just wait a little. And again, thank you guys for those of you who have stuck still and are still taking a look at it. Hope you guys are, learning a little bit. If you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat. That's totally cool. But yeah, it's taking a little bit. But once it loads, we're gonna be on wheels pretty much. We're gonna continue building up on this application. We have the splash screen. Okay, while that is creating, I can start creating the other application. So let's call this one, this other page, I'm gonna call it like landing page. So let's go to the pages. I'm gonna be creating this, and I'm gonna say new file. I'll call it, I'll say new file, skipping frog landing dart. So let's say that is the landing page, and I'm also going to create it as a stateless widget. You can't go wrong when you start it as a stateless widget, and then let's say you want to convert it to a stateful widget. You don't go wrong with that. So I'm gonna call it skipping frog landing. There you go. So I'm just going to import the material, and there it is. So as always, because this is a page level type of widget, I am going to use a scaffold. There you go. And then later on, of course, I'm going to continue building up on this. But here is where you will see then like this background image being shown, these buttons down here, the image for the title, the little frog in there, the little character in there, they're going to start showing there in this page. So I can continue then cranking on this. While this is still loading, I can create the other pages. We're going to need one page for the, what did we say, the options? Yeah, so we're gonna need 3 more pages. So help, start, options. So we're gonna need the options, and then the start is nothing more than just the start is nothing more than the game. So that's the start. So I can just right click here in the pages folder, and then I say new file, and I'm gonna say game page.dart. That's for the game. I'm gonna be creating one for the options. I'm gonna say options page.dart. That's going to be for the options. Oh, I think it's already loading. So there it is. It's just that the image is not showing because I believe we need to define some dimensions for that. So Vijay, you say, can you please add explanation on debug tools to your streaming series? That would be really cool. And yes, Sirhan, you say it is common. Definitely, yes. In the theme field of the application widget and then accessing them from widgets, yes, you can do that. Yes. So it is best practice to do it like that, but it's not uncommon to keep all your colors. Let's say like you create like a helpers class and then you call it like, app colors.dart, and then you create, for example, like a class called, app colors, and here you create like, you create like static, color, main color, for example, and then you say color, and then you define like a color here or something like that. You could do it like this too, but it's whenever you have application that truly require like theming, and you want to change, for example, like the full theming, you want to tap into let's say doing like for example, I can keep it as a constant. There you go, like that. So you can do something like this and add all your colors in here, or you can just feed it straight into the theming so that it performs like that cascading effect. So that is correct, exactly. And you can do it like all the way at the root so that they can cascade. So that is correct, of course. So, but you could do something like this, which is, for example, for this application, because it's not going to require any theming, you can do something like this. So you see like my assets, let me make sure that I'm actually typing it correctly. So assets, imgs, skipping frog, I need to see the logo now. So skipping frog logo underscore off.png. I can define some dimensions for this if I want to. For example, I can set some fixed dimensions on my image if I want to, but I want this image also to be in the center. So I can do, for example, like wrap with center, and then this image I can say, for example, like width. Let's start with width 200 and like height 200. Let's see what it looks like. So if I reload, and then you will see how the application will reload. Let's see if the assets are coming through, and there they are, the assets are coming through. So now let's say that's what I want. I want to keep it a little larger. I'm gonna do it a little larger. Sorry about this. So I'm gonna do like this, 250. Let's keep it 250, and I'm just gonna hit reload, and then you will start seeing, for example, like the image in there. There you go. Perfect. So there you go. That's my splash screen. So the splash screen, what I want is probably the splash screen. I'm going to be performing like a loading of the players or the leaderboard, like up front, simulated. So the way that you can simulate it is using, for example, like a timer. You could use a future. Some people do this. You could do like a future. I like to use like timers, and then I do like a timer, and then I do like periodic. I do like a timer. I run it for a few seconds. Then I can cancel the timer, because you know that the future dot delay is using a timer underneath it, right? If I say future dot delay, and then I say I'm gonna add a duration. We're gonna do the simulation. So I'm gonna const duration, and then I'm gonna say seconds, 3 seconds. So let's say the application is gonna spin for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to proceed to navigate to the next page, for example. But if you go to future.delayed, look at the future.delayed. It's actually using a timer inside. So I rather use a timer. So you could do that. So, but for now, we're just gonna do it like this. So remember, we have our landing page in here, and then the landing page will just say, for example, like body, and then let's say center. Let's do like a center, and then add a child of a text and say hello, something like this. Let's just make sure that we get to that page when we navigate to it. Remember, for those of you who just joined, I'm not using navigation in instantiating pages. I'm actually using routes because it's better to actually manipulate the routes and kind of like have a record of those routes and whatnot. You can do, for example, this. Like I can, for example, my next one is going to be landing, right? Something like this. And then I'm gonna say context, and then let's instantiate the skipping. I'll do the skipping frog. What did I call it? Landing, right? Skipping frog landing. That's what I called it. Skipping frog landing. That's what I called it. Perfect. So now we're gonna make sure that after the 3 seconds, we're gonna go to the landing page. So check this out. So when I do now import the library, and then I import the landing page, when we reload, it's gonna take 3 seconds, and then it's going to reload. So check this out. So it's gonna show it for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and then it's gonna navigate to the escaping frog landing. Well, not right now, of course, because I need to still finish it. So I just wanted to do this. But here is what I'm going to do. So instead of me saying this, check this out. Instead of me saying navigator, pretty much, I can say navigator.off, and then I have to do context dot push named, and then I do like landing. You do something like this to go. You can actually store the navigator if you have more navigation within your application, like nested navigations. You can do this for now, but you can use, for example, like a global key, and then you assign the navigator key to this one, and then you can use it. For example, you can use the global navigation by tapping into the navigator key here, like this. You can use the navigation.off. That totally works. If I go back to the splash screen, and then you see me save now, and I save, and then I'll reload. So now you will see 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna navigate to a named route called landing, so it should show me that blank screen. So 1, 2, 3, and then it should navigate to the next screen. So let me reload one more time. Perfect. So I need to see, it's gonna take 3 seconds, and then it's gonna navigate to the next page, and there it is. Got it. So it's just say hello. Now in this hello page, because we want to focus on only this page, let's go back to the, now to this page, to the landing, and work on that. So if I change anything in here, Flutter, and then I save, reload. So we're gonna continue working on this page, right? So we're gonna be continue working on this particular page. You see, like it's gonna do that reloading, which I don't want. So that's why I say that instead of using a future, you could use like a timer. So that's why I can come over here to the splash screen. I'm gonna make my page, instead of a stateless widget, check this out. And I think this is even better because it allows you can convert it to a stateful widget, for example. You can create a timer. You can say, for example, here in this state, you can initialize it later, and you say timer, and then you import a timer. I'll tell you why I could use a timer also. Why? Because I can cancel it. I can dispose of it. So you can, for example, here you tap into the, let me do override, and then in the override I say void init. In my init, then I'm gonna say timer equals timer, and then in here I pass what the timer requires. So the timer requires a duration and a callback. So I'm gonna pass also the same thing. I'm gonna say const duration. See, this same thing. So instead of doing it in the build method, which gets executed every time, so every time it builds, so I'm just gonna do it once when it initializes. And then, for example, like in this particular case, of course, I have to say, init state, sorry about that, init state, and then here I just say super dot init state, right? So I instantiated, I performed the 3 seconds. I don't need this in the build method anymore. But the cool thing about this is I can dispose of it in the void dispose. So in the void dispose, I can say timer dot cancel, right, after it's done, and then I can say super dot dispose. I kind of like this way because you can dispose of your, of the things that you use in your application. So let's try it again. So if I reload, it should be the same behavior. It should not be anything different. So we see the screen, we wait 3 seconds, and then we go to that one. Now, if I'm in the landing page, and then I change something in here, for example, I'll change it back to hello. And if I save and I just hit the R, reload, see, it keeps me in the application as opposed to the Flutter delay kind of like messed me up, and then it started like to reload again. That was a little tricky. So you see, it was better to actually clean up after yourself. So that was good. So now let's build up on this next page, which is this main one right here. So this is the landing page. So I need a background, I need these images, and these buttons down here. So what are we going to use for this? If you know already, this is a stack. So we're going to be using a stack as the main widget for the scaffold. So I'm going to say stack, and then inside of the stack, I am going to add all those widgets because they're going to be stacking up on top of each other. Push replacement, and yes, thank you. That's a very good point. Thank you so much. Sirhan, I should use that. Very good point. It should be push replace and name because I don't need the splash anymore. Very good point. Thank you. So I'm gonna be using that. I love the fact that we're doing this in a very collaborative way. So it's correct. I should be using push replacement name. So I should be using push replacement named. Correct. Why? Because the splash screen, I don't want it to be in the stack anymore. Very good point. Very good point. And yes, I do use it like that. I totally missed it, but I'm glad that you caught it. So thank you so much. See, I did it right there. Perfect. I love that. Thank you very much. Let's continue. Yes, so the stack, that's what I was saying. So I do stack and I will just add children to it. And then I want an image that covers like the whole screen. Let's start with just adding the image. And then I'm going to use image asset. I'm going to be using, again, assets, images, and I think I have that as a background. I call it, I think I call that, what do I call this image? I have a name for it, so let me, this one right here, that will be like the launch screen, but that we can worry about that later. The image for that background, I'm calling it, yeah, so I'll see it right about now. So I called it main background. Got it. So let's go back over. I want to close it. And then I'll say main background. So let's call it main BG. Main underscore BG.png. Let's start with that. And then, for example, instead of saying image.asset, like I wanted to fill the whole stack, I want to specify how I want it to fill. That's why I wanted to show you like this. Because you see it's not filling the whole container. You could do, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can say image.asset, and then here you can do something like this. You can say fit, and then you say box fit dot, let's say in this particular case, I can say cover, or I can say fill. Let's try, for example, fit height. There's a couple of approaches that you can do. I'll just say fit height just to see if it does it. It still doesn't do it because the stack, the image is not filling the whole stack. Another thing that you can do is wrap this with another widget. I'm showing like a couple of approaches. If you have a better approach, please drop it in there. I use this one called the positioned.fill. If I say position.fill and then I try it, what it does, it like forces the image to be filled in the screen. And there you go. You see, so position.fill, and then you do image.asset, and then you do fit box fit height, so that it fits the height of that container, like the parent container, which is the position.widget. Got it. So let's keep cranking along. The next thing that I'm going to show is I'm going to be adding all the other widgets, which is, yeah, we're going to be adding the skipping frog logo, the little character, and then the 3 buttons down there. And I'm going to ask you a question if you guys have tried it before. Again, like I said, I'm going to try to bring as little as components as possible so that you can see how you can do this without any libraries and your application remains really low as far as like file size. So let's add skipping frog logo. So let's add that one. So I'm going to do, if you see this is going to look like pretty much like a stack. I'm not like I'm sorry, like a column. I can keep a column and keep these guys and then make this one kind of like expanded so that the image kind of takes most of the space, or I can just center all of the widgets in there. I can do that. Let's start with a column. Let's start with a column, right? So let's do column because they look to me like like they're lined up like that. So let's do a column. Actually, let's do center first. I'll do center, and then I will do a child, and then I'm gonna say column because they kind of look like a column, and then I add a children. So in the children, then I'm gonna lay them up vertically. The first one will be the logo, so I'm gonna say image.asset, and then I'm gonna say assets.images, and I called it skipping frog logo, right? Skipping frog logo.png. I think that's what I'm calling it. Skipped it. Skipping frog underscore logo.png. Perfect. And I think I'm going to follow the same approach as the other one. I'm going to make it like a 250 by 250. I'm going to say width 250 by height 250, for example. I'm going to save that, reload. You see how cool this is? This is like makes you so productive. Like you just do shift reload and then you're good. Now, because you see that it is anchored all the way at the top, of course, we're going to say main axis alignment. Main axis alignment. And then I'm going to say center so that it actually centers it vertically. And you see that I think this is going to be pushed to the center, but I'm going to keep adding all the other images, right? So after I add this one, I'm going to add the, image, that asset of the character. So I'm going to be adding that image right there. And I think this is the frog, I think it's called like frog win. I think that's what I'm calling it. Frog underscore win.png. Let's stick with that 250 by 250 just for now. Just bear with me. I'm gonna keep it like that. And that's our guy. Let's make it a tad bigger. Let's do like 350, for example. And of course, we can take a look at how it fits on other screens. For example, we can definitely take a look at that. But first, let's lay out all the images, and then we can worry about the other stuff. Yes, exactly. So that you're saying column in the children rows, exactly. So you could do columns, and then in the children, you can just add all the other guys right there. So now I have the image. I have then the other guy down there. So now how will I do the next thing, which are these guys right here? So for example, I can do this. Like you see these buttons, what I want them to look is, I want them to look like this. I want them to have like this type of effect. You see, and I already generated images for those. So one way that I've done it is actually just creating one widget that I pass both images, and then I just toggle the images on and off. You could actually, create like your own image button if you want to. I've done it like that. I'm going to show you. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Instead of me, for example, like pulling as many, this is something that I can create myself very easily. So that's why instead of bringing like a image button library or using like an image button, I'm going to show you like a way at the same time learning Flutter. For those of you who know how to create something like that from scratch, if you want to save time, if you want to save efforts, you want to save another package being imported. So you could do, for example, in this particular case, I'm going to be using, yes, of course, I'm going to be using a row. So I'm going to be using a row of children. And here is where I'm going to be adding that type of widget that I'm going to be calling globally. I'm going to call it, check this out, skipping, just hear me out, skipping frog button. Let's call it like this, but I'm going to tell you why I'm calling it like this. I'm going to call it skipping frog button because I'm going to pass the two images in there. And then the two images, I'm going to just toggle them on and off by just showing one. And then when you press, I'm going to be adding like gesture detectors. And then I'm going to do that. So I'm going to create it from scratch just to show you how I can create it. You can import a library, but I'm going to create it on my own. And then what you give to this, let's say to this button is just, let's say the on image and then the off image, something like this. And then here, for example, you can have like, you can create, for example, something like on tap. And then you can, for example, see, this is like an API that we're going to be creating. We're going to be creating it from scratch. So you're going to be tapping into, if you tap on this button, it's going to have like a trigger, right? So every button in the application will be a skipping frog button. You pass two images and then it's just going to create it for you, right? It's going to give you that effect. You can also pass the dimensions. Let's say, you pass, let's say the width, whatever, you pass the width and the height, right? And then you pass like the on and off image, and then you pass like an on tap event. So let's create something like this. Remember that I told you that I create also like widgets. So that's exactly what I'm going to be creating. So I'm going to be creating a custom widget just for this so that you can see how you can create stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the widgets folder. I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it just like that. Skipping frog button dart. And I'm going to be creating it as a stateful widget. As a stateful widget. And I'm calling it just like that. Skipping frog button. I'm going to call it stateful widget. It's just so that you can see how you can achieve what I said like that, widget composition. You build your own widgets by breaking down your UI into multiple little widgets, and then you can compartmentalize your application. So let's create the API. So the API will contain something like this. I'm going to have a final, string on, meaning that is the path to the assets of the image that represents the on the on state. And then I'm going to say final string off. Also that. I'm going to add a one for example, I'm going to add one. Remember function, we said on tap. So we want to pass also like a callback. I also pass like double, we're going to have, remember, we're going to have a width and we're going to have a double height. What else did we say that is going to have? So for example, like width, height, on, off, and on top, something like that. Very simple. And then all I need to do here is, for example, I can do, I make them required because I need them all. So I'm going to say, of course, required this dot on, and then the other ones, of course. I'm going to have the off here. I'm going to pass every parameter is going to be required. So I'm going to pass on top. I'm going to pass the width and the height. And then I'm going to say width and height. And there you go. That's it. So I still keep it as constant. That's exactly what I want. So now, for example, here, instead in my widget, what am I going to be doing? Remember, I'm going to be creating a stack with children. And then remember, because I'm going to be adding 2 images, right? So it's going to be one on top of the other. And then when you press on the gesture detector of that image, it's going to just show the other one. So it's just going to toggle it. That's exactly what it's going to do. Are you going to use set state here? That is correct, Vijay. I'm going to be using set state. That's why, remember, I told you about the mixture of using like, let's say a provider or like set state or, block or whatever. But in this case, I'm going to be using set state. That is correct. I'm going to be using 2 images. I'm going to say image.asset. And of course, I know that all my assets are already in assets/images. So I'm just going to say, on, or I can just do, for example, like this, of course, you interpolate it. So I can say, on, I can say on that PNG because I want to access the on version on one. It says avoid braces. Okay, got it. So I can just do this. Perfect. There you go. And then I can say like on and off and blah, blah, blah. Something like that, right? Oh, it says undefined. Don't I have this? Okay. So anyway, I can do something like this as well. I can say, on, and then I pass the PNG because I'm not going to pass like the whole thing. I'm just going to say, just give me the path to that image, just the name of that image. That's all I want. And then if you see, oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm using the state, so I have to do the widget. Sorry about that. So I just have to say widget.on. That's what I forgot. Sorry. I meant to look up. I meant to look up off. And then because I have the other one, then the other one will be just right below. So it's going to be the off one. But you're going to show one and then hide the other. So that I can load them up front and they can be kind of like cached. I'm going to load both. But I'm going to wrap both of my images into an opacity. Check this out. And Vijay, I'm going to be using the set state for this. So check this out. I'm going to say opacity. And then check this out. I'm going to say opacity. I'm going to add the logic later, but I'm just going to show you at least so that create like the foundation of this object. The first one will be there's the on and then the off. So this one will be off. I'm going to say opacity 0 just for now. And I'm going to wrap this into an opacity. And I am going to say, I'm not going to say visibility because visibility doesn't load it. Opacity does load it, but it's just going to hide it for you. Opacity, this one is going to be 1. So check this out. After I do this, then I pass the dimensions. Sorry, I need a comma here. And then, of course, I need the dimensions for my images, which are already provided in here. So I'll say width is, widget dot width. And then I'm going to say the height for the same thing. Height and then height. See, I'm creating my own thing. I encourage you, find a library, whatever you want to do. But in this case, I'm showing you how you create your own widgets and you make your application much slimmer because you're using the same components that you're using in there. Now, you see that this is whole stack containing these 2 children. So let's wrap this stack into another widget called the gesture detector. Remember, this is the one that's going to handle the gestures on the tap because I'm going to be creating like my own custom button pretty much. The gesture detector has an on tap event. Just tap into it. Just look, you're just gonna say widget dot on tap. So I'm gonna tap into that same method. So I'm reusing it right there. You see, I'm using the width and the height, the on and the off, and the on tap. So I created this custom widget that represents every button in the whole application. Let's take it for a spin. Let's see if it works. So now I'm gonna import my new widget. I'm gonna start loading the images for these two guys. Let's do these guys. Help, start, and options. I made them the same size. So help, start, and options, I call them button help off, button start off, button options off. Let's just call it exactly like that. So I'm gonna say, you know, let's start, for example, with a small number. Let's keep them like 150 by 150, and the on one is gonna say button start on, right? And then the off is button start off. You can even go as far as naming all your images like that and then just making it like very straightforward. Check this out. So if I save now and reload, let's see if the image shows there, but the only image that you should be able to see is just the on one. So I'm reloading the whole thing so that you can see it. And there it is. So we have the start one. If I now, like what Vijay mentioned, I'm going to be using set state to actually toggle that, and then you'll see that. The on tap is going to trigger only when I click it, but right now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to handle that later. So I'm going to add then other widgets of the same type, skipping frog button. The next one is going to be, so I have the help, start, and then options. So this one is the help. I made them the same size. That actually helped me a lot. So I say help, and then I have the start, and then I have the options on here. And then I just say options, and then I do this one, options. There you go. So I'm going to save, reload, and you should be able to see them. They're just, yeah, exactly. They're just going a little bit out of the screen. So I'm going to make them a little smaller anyway. So let's make them, for example, let's try 120, for example, for all of them. But later, what I can do in upcoming episodes, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be implementing responsiveness, and then I'm going to try to even check check, let's say, on which screen they're rendering, so that way they look better. So now I'm going to say, I'm going to center them vertically. So remember, so you say main axis alignment dot center. Center, like that. There you go. And then if I save and reload, now they should be lined up. And what I want to do exactly, remember what I mentioned, is I want them to be like when I press them, you want to see the black state. So when I press on my button, right now, of course, it's not doing anything, but that's what we're going to be doing now. What Vijay, you said we're going to be using state. Correct. That is exactly what we're going to be using. We're going to be using state. So what I do in this particular case is, by default, let's say if I go back to the script, skipping frog button, for example, right? I try to do, for example, I create like a state. Like you see, this is stateful widget. So I'm going to add in my state, I'm going to add something like this. I'm going to say, for example, Boolean, is pressed, for example. And then I'm going to keep it as false because it's not pressed initially, right? Now what I want to do is, in the gesture detector, I'm going to handle the on tap up, on tap away. There's a couple of those events that you can definitely tap into. I'm going to show you, for example, like how I've done it, right? Let me show you in this particular, I have one application where I've done it. I'm going to show you, I think it's gonna allow me to load it, but I'm just gonna show you real quick. It's very simple. I handle all the states of the gesture detection, which are the on tap up, on tap down, blah blah blah. But when I press the button, when my finger is still down, I want to see the black version of that button, right? So that's why I'm gonna use the set state to actually trigger a rebuild on the widget. That way I can see that I can see the state. So let me show you real quick how I did that in there. So I have one project here that I did it so you guys can see it. So let me load it for you guys. It's pretty simple. It's just I'm gonna show you how I handled the states in there. It's very simple. Let me show you. Okay, here we go. And then in this one, I created like this same thing. I'm just gonna replicate pretty much the same thing. This is one project that of another game that I'm about to publish. I can't share the code on this one that much because it's a lot of proprietary stuff that I build, but I can show you a few things that I built. This is a game that I don't know if you guys have seen it in on my Twitter. It's like I call it the Flutter dots, and then you get like dots being written and being scratched on like on a page and using like markers and stuff like that. So I created that same widget, and it came out like pretty cool. So if I go here to the lib folder and then I go to the widgets, you'll see like how I handle like the image, the way that I handle the toggling of the images is very simple. So I called it just like that. I call it image button, and you see I'm using something called like to create like multiple states in it. So you see I load the image, and then I just handle whether like if it's pressed or not. All I wanted to show you here is just the gesture detection. You see I'm handling the on tap, I'm handling the on tap down, I'm handling the on tap up, and the on tap cancel. And you see, so I'm just gonna grab all of these three right here so that you can see it, and then you will see now the changes being applied. So I'm just gonna grab this, and then you will see it. It's super simple. So I'm just gonna copy this. I think I called it just like that. If it's pressed, there you go. And then I already have the on tap, so I'm gonna handle those other events. I'm gonna handle the on tap up, on tap down, and on tap cancel. And then all I'm gonna say is whether I can remove this piece of code because I don't need it. But if you see, all I'm doing, just like you inferred, VJ, is just flipping state, changing the state, and now what I'm gonna do after handling the on tap down, on tap up, is just saying here which one shows and which one doesn't show. So if it's pressed, if it's true, if pressed equals true, then the on, when it's pressed, the on hides, and else then just show it. It's just like that. And then the other one is just the opposite. So when the button is pressed, the opacity is actually just the opposite. When it's pressed, show it, and when not, just hide it. You see, now I keep my logic very internal to my widget, and then now if I reload my widget, I'm gonna reload it one more time, and then now you will see right now they are of course pressed, but now when I do this, and you press and I hold down to that, you see that button right there, there it is. So I have to say because it's false. I'm sorry, that's why. Sorry about that, because I had to flip it. So I just have to say 1 0. There you go. So initially the state should be that. It's just that if it was true, then it was. But when it turns to true, then you then like that. So if you do this, and now if you reload it, the initial state should be, of course, like that. There you go. So now by default they will be like this. And now if I hold down the button, you see it. If I hold it down, that's what I want. So I click, and then I want that change of state. So you see, I just created a custom button. I saved you a library that you needed to import, and now you have, let's reload the whole thing now. When you see it, now you see the initial screen, you see it says skipping frog, then you will see the next one coming up, and then you see now when I press and I hold down on those icons, now you see them change. So you see, you don't have to import like a whole library for this. And I just created something really simple that I can apply now to all over my application. I can do that. So now I can show you now how to hook up those events. Remember that I said that the on tap just taps into the on tap? That's all there is. So now I'm gonna go back to the landing, and now let's just point to those tap events. So let's go back to the tap events, and then we're gonna load like each one of those guys. So I can even create it very programmatic. you know, whichever way you want it. You could do anything you want. In this particular case, I know what my pages are. I can just directly here just can say navigator, because I know where they're gonna go anyway. Navigator, because remember this button I can use it anywhere. So I'm just gonna say navigator.off context dot push. This time I'm gonna say push named because I want to be able to come back instead of push replacement named. Thank you very much again, Serhan, for that suggestion, of course. Now I'm gonna say push named, and then because this is the, what is it, help? So I'm gonna say slash help, for example. We have to have a route for the help. We need to have one for the, this is the start. Now there's gonna be the game page. So I'm just gonna say game, and we're gonna have one for the options, and of course you can have one for options. Something like that. Remember, this is not a huge application, but you definitely want to keep these things streamlined. You definitely, of course, want help, options, and game. So I need to have a help route, I need to have an options route, and I need to have a game route. And I believe I already have those applications. Oh, well, these are empty. So I'm just gonna create these pages real quick, and I'm just gonna grab, I can just do state, let's keep them as stateless for now, and then later on we can do anything. So I'll call it just game page. I will import the material, and of course, remember, this is a page level application. Make it as a scaffold. So I use scaffold, sorry, there we go. And it's gonna have a body of what? Of a stack with the image as a background. So, but this is the game page. The game page is gonna have a different one. So I'm just gonna have something simple in here. You know, hello, just so that we can, you know, have something in there. Got it. I'll copy paste this guy. I'll save it here in the options page, and all I'm gonna say is just rename this guy, and I'm gonna say rename it locally. I'm just gonna say rename page, and I'll say options page. Just rename it everything. There you go. That's the options page. I need a help page, right? So I'm gonna say help page dart. Same thing. Paste. Oops, sorry, forgot to copy the whole thing. And I'll just call it help page. And we're just gonna navigate to those. I just needed to make sure that at least I have, you know, routes and you know, real pages pointing to those. So I think it's a good practice to keep route names in the screen widgets as static fields. You can also do that. I was gonna go exactly to that because you're right. I don't want to have hard-coded names everywhere. So that is true. That is a great, good practice, and I can do it right now as well if you want to. That is totally correct. I can say static, and then I can say, what do you want to call it, for example? You could call it, you know, page name if you want to call it, you know, something like that. You could call it anything, but yes, this is a good practice. As opposed to hard coding the name everywhere, is good to have it as a static field. So I can do exactly, I do it like that. I can do it here as well. Let's just call it, you know, help page dot, you know, let's call it route for simplicity. And then we'll say like this, we'll say help. How about that? We could do something like that. And then it's a static field inside of the page. How about that? I think that works as well. So we'll do that, and we'll save it on the other pages as well. It's a very good practice, something that you should continue, something that you should do. That is totally fine. I'll call this options, and then I'll go to the game page, and I'll do it here as well. So yeah, that is totally valid. Let's do it. Look at that, game. I do it like that too. Yes, definitely we should be doing this as well. And then here, all I need to do, just like you say, then I can just refer to them, as opposed to doing this. Is very cool. I can just say help page, that route. Very simple. See, nice refactoring. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Very good refactoring. So I'll say game page dot route. Oh, sorry. I need to import the game page. And I'll say game page dot route. You can call it anything, but I think this is a good name. Thank you for the suggestion anyway. This is the option, so I'll say options page dot route. Perfect. And there you go. Very nice, very nice. I can do it in the splash screen too. I can do it here as well. No problem. I can do it here as a stateful widget, as a constant, right up here. And this one is going to be called splash, or just root, like that. We can just keep it like that. That way I can come back here and say initial route is the splash screen. So I'll say skipping frog splash dot route, and that will be the initial route. How about that? Perfect. Same thing here. route, every route, the landing. I think, did I do it on that one? I don't think. We should do it on that one as well. So we should say like a route in there like that. Perfect. So let's do it here. I'll have a static also, just like the other guys. Very good. I love I love the collaboration that we're doing, guys. Thank you so much. I totally love it. Static, sorry. Static, I'll make a string route and then say landing. Perfect. Got it. And then we'll do the same thing as the others. Go back to the main.dart. Continue with the other one. So I'll do the help. Oh no, this is landing. Sorry about that. I call it, yeah, because I need to import the help. So I'll say help page. We're gonna navigate to that, auto import it, and say help.route, help page.route. Same thing with the options. Options.route. We'll import this guy. Oh, sorry, options page. Sorry about that. Options page, and I'll import it. Okay, auto import. There we go. Grab it, replace it. Why didn't import? Okay, now we got it. And game, last but not least, the game page. Game page, auto import that route, and just do that. How about that? How does it look now? Good, perfect, awesome, great. I love the refactoring, and now it's much cleaner and more streamlined. So thank you very much. Thank you for keeping me honest. So let's now reload the whole thing. Now let's see if it just navigates to those pages. When we do a hot restart, we do a full hot restart. Let me do. Okay, there we go. I did another one. But anyway, let's try it again. You will see it. And now if I type on help, okay, now it's gonna go again. Sorry about that. I click on help. We are in the help. If I click on start, we are in the. It still says hello. If I click on options, we got that. Perfect. Let's just wrap up one more page and then we'll call it a day. But I just wanted to say the same guys that I see here, I expect you to see in the next one. Vijay, Dayern, Sirhan, you guys are helping me a lot. Please join next time if you can. I love this collaborative ways of programming. And again, if you see me, if I just put my camera every night, this is pretty much how I jam. I just start like creating, building applications and building cool stuff like that. So I appreciate you guys, the few of you who are joined. I'm glad that you guys are here. So let's make it count. Let's now build, for example, one of the other pages. I can, to make it more exciting, I can show you, for example, I can start building on this one, on the game page a little bit, and then we can go with that, and then we can wrap it up. Or I can show you. No, actually, let's do the options page so we can take for a spin the newly created skipping frog button. So let's do the options page. So let's go with that. I'm gonna go to the options page. Here we go, and then of course remember we're gonna pretty much do the same thing that we did on the landing. I can even create another widget. If I want to, or if I can, that kind of leverages like using these type of like the background and stuff, so I don't have to repeat it. I need a column. I need a column, but I don't need a center. Let's go little by little. So let's go back to the options page. We need a scaffold. A stack. Let me go back to the landing page again. I'm just gonna grab like everything from here up. So I want to grab the stack with the children and the first positioned widget. Let's grab all of this. Let's go back to the options page. And I'm going to drag it over here and then just paste it. I'll just close on the stack. Sorry, I need to close on the stack and close on the stack right here. So I'll do this, right? I can format it, but I kind of like them opened up like that. So let's go to the options page. Let's reload. Let's make sure at least that the options page is showing the background. So if I click on the options page, here we go. Now let's continue building on this widget. So position that field, there you go. Now let's start adding widgets to this thing. So or images in this particular case. We need one options button up here. That is the options title. I think I already have it. So I'm just gonna say here align. I'm gonna add an align widget. So I'm gonna say align, but I don't want it too high above. This is what I'm gonna do. Check this out. I already have the position that field because it's gonna cover the whole area. I'm gonna do this one. save area. I think you guys have used this before. Save area, what it does is exactly what it shows there. It avoids operating system interfaces, and then it contains all the widgets within the save area. I'll do the same thing on the other ones as well. So this one is a pretty good one. Vijay, you say, I'm planning to make a Bluetooth app. I definitely try to attend your sessions. Definitely. Bluetooth and all of that, it's pretty cool. Like, and Flutter does have support for that. Some people have that misconception that Flutter doesn't have like support for that. It does. So there we go. Okay, so let's start with a child. The child of the save area will be a column. So let's add a column because we want to add things like that, right? So let's start with a column. I was going to say a line, but I think because it's already like a column, let's keep it like that. So let's add a column in the save area, and we add children to the column. And then the top item in the column will be an image. So image.asset, assets.images, and I think I have it, and it's called, in my assets, images, I have called option title. I think that's what I called it. Options title. So options underscore title.png. Let's take a look. Let's just reload real quick. Hot reload. And you see, it's too humongous. Let's just add some dimensions to that. Let's just say, let's keep a simple width. Let's do like 100. Let's start with that. Or like 150, something like that. Let's start with that. It's never going to be bigger than that, so you don't have to worry about like this widget. Okay, it's doing that because of the save area in the column. So what you want to do in the column in this particular case, so that it doesn't force all the other widgets, do the cross-axis alignment dot stretch. This is one trick that is an old trick. You can use it, and then now when you do this, you will see now that the column stretches, and then you're of course you will still need to change the information in here in the asset, so that now it is more in line with your image. So because the image that asset is trying to do that. So let me set a height on this, and then I'll say like 100. Let's try something like this. Because when you do cross alignment stretch, like it's see, then you go. So I can just continue changing it like that. So I'll do height. Let me see if I do 50. What does it do? It forces my widget to be like one specific dimension. Like I there you go. It's a little too small. Let me do, because it's forcing the image, is still keeping it proportional, but it's doing the for example, I could do like 80, something like that, and you see it will still keep it within reasonable height. Is not going to be blocked by the operating system buttons, and I think I have my options button in there, right? Cool. So let's keep it like that. We can try now to continue. Remember, we need this difficulty, easy and hard, view the leaderboards, and then the back button. Let's do the back button. But meanwhile, in this column, remember the column is a flexible widget. Column, when you click on column, hi Julia, thank you for joining. I know I've seen you again in other sessions. I love your work as well, so thank you so much for joining. I'm going to now click on the column just so that you can see that the column is actually a type of flexible widget. See, it inherits from Flex. So it takes flexible widgets, It's a Flex type of widget. So you can do something like this. The image is going to be on top, but then you can have, for example, like an expanded widget in the middle, which is going to actually house all the widgets in the middle, like meaning the component, the view leaderboards, so that I want this container to actually push all the other siblings to the top and the bottom, right? So later we're gonna be adding something here. So I'm just gonna add a placeholder for now. So I'm gonna say, hello, something like that. But why I'm doing this? Because I want to add that skipping frog button at the bottom. And I want to leverage that back button. Like when you press the back button, then will be one type of skipping frog button that we will do for that back button. So now when I add this button, the image for the title is going to be pushed to the top. The expanded is going to take the whole width in the whole container in the middle, and then the skipping frog button widget is going to be pushed to the bottom. With parameters required here for which specific thing? For the, let's say for the options, if you want to keep your for example, like in this particular case, we're dealing like with images and assets. You want to specify specific dimensions. In other circumstances, I wouldn't have done specific dimensions. I would have used like padding, margins, centering and positioning parameters, but not like fixed dimensions. In this particular case, I want to apply fixed dimensions because I want it to be like one specific dimension, one specific width and height. So let's import this real quick, and I'm not gonna need this for now. Well, later this one will do it, but I want to handle the back button. So that I think I have the back button already. So it's called button back on, back off. So I have back. So I say button back on, button back off. By doing this, oh, you say for the options? Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. I think there's a little bit of a delay. Sorry about that. So now if I reload, now you will see that the back button, there it is. See, it's all the way in the down here. I want it a little bigger, so because I created it like in this specific dimensions. Actually, I can even provide the dimensions that I want, or I can just kind of tweak it a little bit so that I can have it displayed for me there. So check this out. So it's still, I have it there. I want to increase the width and the height. Actually, I'll increase the width. Check this out. So if I increase the width because I want like specific dimension for those buttons, right? I want specific dimension. That's why I want it like that. If in other circumstances, when you have like UIs that have like deal with text, like that, you want things to be more fluid. Yes, you want to just apply padding and all of that. Don't try to do this, but in this particular case, yes, you need that. So I'm going to keep it like 180 by 180 because I have like specific dimensions for that. Okay, that's what I want. And now I will center it. I can do, for example, remember have a column and then I'm doing stretch because everything is stretching. Inside of this, I can, for example, this is one trick that I've also done. For example, you can wrap this inside a row, right? And center the items in the row. You can say this. You can say main axis alignment, main axis alignment dot center. That way I don't have to specifically tell it to, for example, like to be like one specific dimension from the left or the right. It's just gonna be centered on like at the bottom. And now if I'm gonna be reusing this button, take a look. Now when I press, it looks like that. You see? Now I'm reusing this button for a lot of things, even for this one. Look how cool. I'm pressing the button and you see the back that it has like that effect. That's what I wanted to achieve. And of course, what do we want with the back button? Just to pop this existing screen. So I'm going to say navigator dot off, and then you say, I'm sorry, navigator dot off context dot pop. You want it to pop just to the previous screen. So if I save this and then I reload and then now I press back, you will see how now the back button actually works like a back button. So I'll click again on options. You see it there. And now I click back. I'm still holding down on it. Now I release it and it goes back to what I want. You see, you can still use the same effect to create that effect in Flutter. You tap on that and then you can do that. You see, I didn't have to import anything. And you were able to see me do that. Now I'm reusing and overusing this thing all over the place, like my skipping frog button. So that is, again, like I mentioned, one trick that you can do. Cool. Perfect. So now let's finish at least the pieces in here in the middle, and then we can worry about the other stuff. So now inside of my expanded, because the expanded is going to take up the whole thing, this is where I want now to add this. So this is a little bit of a column. I see that I have the difficulty panel, then I have these two buttons that is supposed to be on top. So that's a little bit of a stack. So a little stack on top of a button down there for the leaderboards. Oh, I needed another page for the leaderboards. I forgot about that one. We can add it later, but at least I'm gonna set it up right here. So what do I need here in this children? I'm gonna add another child column. So I'm gonna say column, which is gonna take the whole space in the middle, right? And I am going to do children, right? I'm going to add as a children a stack, and then the stack is gonna have the image for the difficulty panel in the back, like that guy right there. It's gonna have the difficulty panel, and then these two buttons, the easy and then the hard, just like that. So now I'm gonna say children. I'm gonna add the image. I'm gonna even grab one of these guys. Let's do image, and look what I'm gonna do in this particular case. Look what I'm gonna do. So instead, if you don't want, again, like I mentioned, only in certain circumstances where you definitely need the dimensions in your widgets or in your images, then you do it. Okay, this is the option. Sorry about that. So I need to say difficulty panel. Here we go. Difficulty panel. Yeah, this one actually messed up what I wanted to do, but at least I wanted to show you. So you see the difficulty panel is there. Vijay, I'm not gonna specify dimension in this particular one. What am I gonna do? Check this out. I can come over here, and instead of adding dimensions so that to let it fill like that, I can do this. I can wrap it in a padding and force that size of that widget using padding. For example, I can do 30 pixels of padding, for example, all around it. And check this out. If I do that, I'm forcing a width, and I don't have to specify it. Now, this will behave responsibly across the board. And then now I can say, okay, so this is a panel that it will behave depending on the screen. It's going to add 30 pixels all around it, and then I didn't have to specify like fixed width and height. And you see it's centered, is properly aligned to that. And then all I have to do now is just add my add the images inside. So now that I have the stack with my padding, now I'm gonna add those two images in there. So I need the easy, and then I need the easy and then the hard, right, inside of that panel. So I think there I'm also gonna be using like I can use a column if I want to add them one on top of each other, or I can position it. I can just position it if we want to. Like I want to position it from the bottom of that container. We can do a lot of things. Let's do a column so that we can stack them up. So I'm gonna say column. I'm gonna add children, and I'm gonna add the two skipping frog buttons, which will represent those two buttons, like the easy and then the hard. So, and then with that, we'll wrap it up for tonight, and then we'll see you next week. So I will do this. We have like 20 more minutes that we can push it until there. So I have the easy on, easy off. Oh, I need to rename this one. Yeah, I think I messed up in here. But anyway, I have the easy off, and then the easy. Yeah, this is supposed to off, and this is supposed to be the off. This is supposed to be the on. So let me rename this. This is supposed to be on, easy on, and then this one is supposed to be easy off. This one is okay. This one is correct, but I'm just going to rename it because it needs to be correct. So otherwise I would have spent a long time like debugging. Why? What's wrong with my image? Okay, here we go. Now let's go back to our options page, and let's just replace it with those images, and then we're good. Sorry about that. So now let's go back over, and then now we have a column with those two buttons. So I have easy on, easy off. That's what I called it. Okay, got it. Yeah. So let me just rename these. Easy on and easy off. Yes, I do need. In this particular case, I do need dimensions in here. I want them like one specific size. I can also base it off maybe of the container. Like maybe force it to be inside of this container, and then the container is the one that actually provides the width to that. We can do that as well. And this one is hard, so I'll do hard on and hard off. And then if I reload it, let's see what it looks like. It may look a little off. We're gonna have to tweak it a little bit, right? But let's see if they show. Oh, okay, so see, I already got like that error. The easy on, easy off. I have to do a hot reload, make sure, because I renamed that image. If it's thinking like that image is not there. So I'm going to do a hard reload. If I have that issue, it's gonna say that it cannot find that file. right? I'm gonna have to call it then the way that it used to be called, so that is so that it still keeps it, right? So I'm gonna have to say this. Let me see if it still thinks that it's there. It's like crazy. I'm gonna have to like reload the application then so that the images show. I didn't want that, but anyway, or I can just at least show one button so that you can see it, and then we can worry about the other one later. Because you saw how long it's taking a little bit to load the like the whole application. See, now is messing up with my with my images. So I say button right, EC off, EC on, still not loading. Okay, that's because I need to reload the whole thing. So I have EC on, EC off. Let me try the hard. So I'm gonna just comment this guy, or I can just call this one in here, and then I'll replace it later. It's just as a placeholder. Let's try the hard. I'm gonna save, reload, because at least that one is there, and then later we can reload all the other ones. But at least I just wanted to make sure that the button's load. I'll just reload the other ones. It's messing. EC off. Oh, okay. Where is it? No, I already saved it. I do save. I'll do. See, it's complaining about that it cannot open that file, but I'll just do a whole reload on this one. But it should have picked it up. I'm still getting that issue because of that file. Got it. If you guys don't mind, then I can restart the application. But at least I didn't want to hold it off much longer because otherwise I know it's gonna take a little bit. So let's do that. So I already have like the start page, I already have the help page. Let's reload fully. Let's do a full reload, for example. A full reload is gonna show us the again, like you saw, the splash screen. It takes you to the landing page. Then it takes us. Then we can navigate to each one of our pages using the routes that we specified, and then we have something pretty cool going on. At least I'm satisfied with how far we've gotten. I think it's already messed up. So let me reload it one more time. Let me make sure that at least we're there. Again, but I just wanted to appreciate everybody hanging in there. For the duration of this thing, you're seeing how simple it is to, and in just a little bit of time, how productive it made us in terms of the ability to create a Flutter application. This one I can just simply plug an Android phone in and it should be good to go. So I love the fact that I love Flutter a lot. I love how productive it has made me in developing applications. You will see this application being published to iOS and Android because that's how easy it is. That's how cool Flutter allows you to build applications and be productive. So I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Okay, I think it's building a little bit much quicker this time. But anyway, I just wanted to appreciate everybody hanging in there. We could probably just finish this one and just call it a day. I just want to give you, again, a reminder. Next Wednesday, we're going to have a Flutter web with Firebase session at GDG San Jose. So you can follow me on Twitter and you can see the link where I'm going to be speaking at GDG San Jose. We're going to be doing workshop on Flutter and Firebase if you guys want to join. Oh yeah, definitely, of course. Thank you. And Vijay, you've been very helpful. Everybody else has been very helpful. So I love this collaborative approach. You see how I made mistakes, but you guys kept me in check. You guys provided very great suggestions, and you will see that this application is not hard, but you will see that when we continue building, even a simple structure like this shouldn't keep you from creating an application. Oh, because I'm not using, the links for the assets. I'm actually going to be pushing this to my GitHub repo, and you can access, some of that code in there. So I'll be providing that on the Twitter because I haven't pushed it yet. But let's wait until this loads real quick before we call it. But I just wanted to thank you guys. And if you want to join another one of these sessions next week, I'm going to continue building this application. I'm going to leave it exactly where it is. So that way you guys don't see that I'm cheating or anything. I want you to continue helping me, and you help yourselves, and you see my thought process. You see my creative process and my development process when I build applications of this kind. Let's just finish this one. Let's finish until this loads. But again, just as a reminder, next Wednesday, Flutter plus Firebase at GDG San Jose. Next Tuesday is where we're gonna continue, because next Wednesday is gonna be that event. And if you guys are interested in cloud, if you guys are interested in the Google Cloud and you want to get certified, I am also running a weekly session on the Google Cloud so that you can become certified as an associate cloud engineer at GDG Lawrence. You go to the GDG Lawrence page. I can drop the link in here. If you guys are interested in learning more about cloud, you can definitely do that. I'm gonna drop the link to the GDG Lawrence so that if you want to sign up for that, for those sessions, completely free, and you get 3 months of a cloud skills boost. With those 3 months, you can do a lot of exercises. You can do a lot of coding in the Google Cloud, and you get 3 months so that you can prepare yourself for the associate cloud engineer exam. So I would definitely encourage, if anybody's interested in becoming an associate cloud engineer, you can definitely do that. Of course, I'm going to continue pushing for Flutter and doing Flutter Web, Flutter Mobile, Flutter Desktop, all of those. I think this is about to load. And after this, again, like I said, let's just finish this one and then we can call it a day. But I have a bunch of other events coming up, so please stay tuned. Bunch of workshops, bunch of boot camps. And of course, more like this, more like, building applications in front of you so that you can see there's nothing that I'm hiding. I'm all about sharing my knowledge with the community, learning from you, of course, as well. Again, this is not something unilateral. This is something that I like, as a collaborative approach, like the way that all of you were able to give me tips and correct me and all of that. That's what I like, because I learn from that as well. I try not to make those same mistakes in the future, and then you pick up a thing or two while building this thing. But you're gonna have a lot of fun when this application is fully loaded. I hope that those same ones that are joining this session help me test the application and download it and serve me as the test users. We can also implement testing in here as well. But at least we can focus on at least building a prototype, building an MVP. Now we're gonna see it load. I hope this doesn't take that long. It's taking a little bit to load. But yeah, just building applications is my jam. Building really cool things with the community is what I love. And I don't mind sharing my code. I don't mind showing it to people. I see other people like, yeah, they show stuff, but they're like afraid of sharing, or like, oh, they're gonna steal my secrets. You can't marry code. That's one thing that I've learned over time, and so many years in the experience. I think it's all about community. It's all about building relationships, building great applications, putting them out there for other people to learn from you, from your mistakes, and to become better developers and building really quality code. I think that's the end goal. Again, I totally appreciate everybody joining this session. Again, like I said, next Tuesday is going to be the session. Not Wednesday, because we're going to keep it every Wednesday, but only for next week. We're going to continue these on a Tuesday. Because of the issue that I have on the Wednesday, we're going to be doing a Flutter Firebase workshop at GDG San Jose. So if anybody's interested in joining, let me also share. I can share the link to that. So you go to GDG San Jose and you can sign up to that. You don't have to be in San Jose to join those sessions. But if you go to GDG San Jose and go to the upcoming sessions, I'm going to drop the link in just a minute while this loads right here. But that upcoming event, I'm going to be there helping everybody. You're going to get you're going to be able to get a Firebase project. With that project, you can create a Firebase project that then you're going to be able to host for free a Flutter web application. So next Wednesday, make sure to sign up, because I'm going to be doing a workshop on Flutter Web plus Firebase. And you're going to walk away with, we're going to raffle a bunch of things, t-shirts for people. We're going to be raffling a Google hardware and a lot of really cool stuff. So make sure to join and do that. There you go. So now it's loading. Let's do a let's do a hot restart one more time so that you can see the whole application again one more time just before we wrap up. So you will see the splash screen one more time. Splash screen loads for 3 seconds. Then we get to the landing page. There you go, skipping frog. That is the, then it takes 3 seconds. Then it shows you the page. Then we go to the options and there they are. You see, we were showing this, but now let's just do button easy. I hope this one works this time. So if I say easy, and then I save and reload, I should be seeing the easy and the hard right there now. There we go. Now they're showing, but now let's let's change a little bit on the height because it's a little bit too much. So I can do, for example, let's do like 100. Let's do like 100, like that. I'm gonna continue tweaking it, of course, but we can even keep it up to there so that you can see it. Easy and hard. There you go. There they are. Now you see that they're the children of the column, but they're all the way at the top. So let's say, for example, cross-platform alignment, cross-axis alignment. I'm sorry, cross-axis alignment, and then we'll say center so that they get center there. And I can do also center on the main axis alignment. So I'll do main axis alignment, main axis alignment dot center. So when I do this, now you should be able to see both buttons now at the center of this thing. We can push it a little bit below if you want to. We can do that, no problem. Just wanted to make sure that we are honoring the. Oh, I see. Sorry about that. Oh, it's because okay, we are in the stack. Sorry about that. The stack actually is doing that. So inside of that stack, because it has the padding and it has that, so we need to wrap this column inside of another widget. Yeah, I totally missed that part. So let me, again, guys, I love when you guys keep me honest. So I can, for example, wrap this column. I can wrap this column in a center so that it centers itself inside of the stack. That way, right? We can definitely do that. Let me just collapse these two because for some reason now my IntelliSense is just acting up. So okay, there it is. It's coming up. So now I can say wrap with a center. So I'll wrap with center the whole column. Now if I reload, okay, it's in the center, but in the center of that, that's okay. I can in the stack, for example, what I can do is because I have the center, I can actually wrap this with a position, and then I can push it down because it's within a stack. Another way to do it, you remember that I'm adding the padding and I'm adding this. Maybe it may be also prudent to resize the stack, like the stack that is also representing that part right there. But I can do this. I can grab this center, or instead of the center, I can say, I can say an alignment, but I can do this. I can wrap my column inside of a widget, and I'll do, for example, like a container, and I'll add like margin. This is one trick. So I can do this. Look, margin, and then I say const edge insets dot only top, and then let's add like top margin to kind of push it from the top. So I'm gonna say like 100, for example. Let's try something like this. So I'm only gonna do 100 pixels of margin from the top to kind of push it down, and there it is. I can do, for example, like 120, something like that. And now if I do it, you see now the difficulty, easy and hard, they're showing right there. They get pushed a little bit lower now, which is okay. If I reload, now I can do, if I press easy, you see now that you will see the little checkbox. And there it is. You see the little checkbox right there? There it is. And then if I do the other one, there you go. But what I can do is I will tweak this button, the skipping frog button, to actually make it so that it actually so that I can hold, so that I can make sure that when I press it, it becomes like a toggle, right? We'll definitely do that. I'll just wrap this up by adding one more button right down here. Remember, inside of this column, like I'm gonna grab my container. This is the center. This is my padding, right? This is the stack, right? So inside of this column, I'm only going to wrap up this thing by adding one more children to this column. Under the stack, this is my stack. I'll collapse the children. and I'm only gonna add that skipping frog button. So I'm gonna add one more button, and then we'll call it a day. Again, I said I appreciate everybody joining. When I paste now this button, and then I'm going to call it, what did I call it? View leaderboards. I think that's what I called that image. It's called view leader or leaderboards. I think it's just, or view leaderboards. No, that's the title, and then I have one for the leaderboards. I don't know if I called it leaderboards. I don't think I imported it, so I may have. Oh, there it is. Button view LB off. Sorry about that. I called it like so weird. But anyway, view LB on and view LB off. View LB off are my two buttons. Now, if I reload, I should be able to see that button in there. Of course, it's taking more of the space because it shouldn't be that. But if I won't do. I need to remove this. Let's do, for example, like 100. I think I'm gonna have to take a look at that. The height is not 180, so I'll probably do 100 by 100. Let's take a look at this because it's chopping it off. There it is. You see, it's chopping it off. So the width, I'm gonna say, for example, 300, and then keep the height at 100. And now you will see, there it is. Now, if I want to reuse that button, now check this out. If I press the leaderboards, I hold it down, you see the black version of it. Now I keep it very like a process. Perfect. Yes. Smashy Crashy. Love the name. Thank you for joining. You can definitely watch the recorded version because it's gonna be on my channel. Vijay, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Again, we are already at time. Just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for joining this session. I hope you enjoyed me just going over my code and how I coded. I love the suggestions that I got from you guys. I do the same thing. I'm glad that it kind of like validates the things that I'm doing. Please join the next session because I'm going to leave it exactly where this is right now. That way you can see this application being completely loaded, fully built from scratch, the same way that you saw it. And you guys are gonna help me test it as well. I'm gonna send you an APK before we load it or whatever. I'm gonna be sharing the code as well. But I love the fact that I got a lot of help from a lot of you. Thank you so much for joining. See you on the next one. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter. You can do the you can just scan that QR code right there on this corner. Which corner is it? This one. This one right here. No, this one. There we go. Okay, perfect. So there you go. So let's scan the QR code right here so you can follow me on Twitter. You will see all my other events, and I'm just glad to see you here. So thank you so much. Serhan, thank you. Vijay, thank you. Smashy Crashy, thank you. Mohammed, thank you so much. Everybody who joined, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for accompanying me in this journey. I hope you guys learned. See you on the next one. Thank you so much. Take care.